Hi, how you doing? I'm Matt Bradford. I'm the CTO of InsightETE, an IT performance analytics company. So a big part of what we help our customers do is we help them find a much better way to troubleshoot issues. And so I kind of want to walk you through kind of the way that we see that most customers are trying to troubleshoot issues today, and ways that we can go ahead and kind of help improve that process a bit. All right, so now picture, if you will, you're inside of your NOC and the following events show up on your dashboard. So we have JVM heap is too high. So we're going to see that your JVM heap is just too high. Your disk E on server X is at 100%. Your network port's at 80% on server B. Server Y is just down completely. And your end user performance, you're experiencing issues with that on application 1. And so what we might end up trying to do then is say, hey, we have all these different events coming in from all these different tools. Well, of course, each of these events, they all have their own priority and severity associated with them. But, here's the thing. Every single one of these are critical alerts because every single independent monitoring tool thinks that the sky is falling at any given time. So, what's a support engineer to do? Well, we can actually go ahead and start to map some of these servers to the applications that they support. So if we do something like that, then we might find. So then what we'll actually end up finding here is that we have app 1 and app 2, and app 1 has server A and server B associated with it. App 2 has server X and server Y associated with it. And so what's that really tell us, right? Well, it tells us that, first of all, if we know that server Y is completely down, and we have a disk that is full on server X, well, geez, those sounds like some pretty serious issues, right? And so maybe we might want to go ahead and take a look at those things first. Now, that might be true if you don't have any other context. So let's go ahead and add just a little bit of context here. All right. So now we're actually getting into a lot of information that we can go ahead and glean here. And so we can actually see that the end user experience on application 2 is actually good. And that, in fact, server Y isn't down. It was actually intentionally taken down for maintenance. And so if we know then that server B is otherwise fine right here, and we know that application 1 is having a problem, then all of a sudden, we can actually start to more intelligently look at what really could be the issue here. So let's go ahead and start to reprioritize things. First of all, we know that server Y is no big deal. Server X, because of the context that we can actually glean as well, as it turns out, that's actually a backup drive. That's something we need to address, but it's not something that's going to be like impacting an end user today, right? And so now we can go ahead and make this a little bit lower priority. But if we actually now see that the JVM heap is too high on server A, and with the exception of the network utilization on server B, everything else is fine, it becomes pretty clear what actually happened, okay? And so what ends up happening is that on server A, the JVM heap got too saturated, which ended up causing a bottleneck, and so customers could not be served on app 1, which then server B had to go ahead and pick up all of the load. Well, server B, the choke point happened to be the network in this case, which further impacted end user experience. And so really, if you just go ahead and clear up your JVM heap on server A, then you're actually going to go ahead and solve not only this guy, you'll also solve this guy, and you'll solve this guy. So again, this was never actually a problem. And so now all of a sudden, this is your top priority. And not just because we know that from a technical perspective, that's actually what caused an issue. But we also know from a business perspective that an issue is actually impacting the end user, because really where business meets IT is actually in the seat of the end user. So, given all of that, you can go ahead and actually prioritize this particular set of problems in a way that makes the most sense to the business. And now, all of a sudden, you're a superstar instead of, being looked at as the team that let end users suffer. So the only way that you can do this is if you actually have a single pane of glass, and not just a single pane of glass that can, pull in different events, but a single pane of glass that can actually pull in all of the raw data from a whole bunch of different sources. And when you're actually pulling in raw data from all of those sources, then you can actually get something that is extremely valuable when you're trying to troubleshoot anything from a technical or from a business issue, and that is context. And that is exactly what InsightETE provides. And if you're interested in figuring out exactly how we do that, if you want to see a little bit more, then feel free to go ahead and click the link right over here. And until then, again, I'm Matt Bradford, InsightETE. Keep collecting data.